Hey everyone, it's Joel from FiretopGames.com. I asked the community, I think 2 days ago, if they wanted me to start a YouTube series on how to create and host a Minecraft server. So, and I got some feedback on some good feedback on how I should do it. So I decided to try it out. I don't do many YouTube videos. I'm not a fan of it, but it gives me something to do, I guess, and it helps out the community. So we're going to try it out, and you guys can let me know what you think. So we're going to start off with very basic. This is going to be a YouTube series, so it's not going to be all covered in this one video. So if you know the very basics of how to get the Minecraft jar and how to create a start file and configure the basic options, then you might just want to skip this video, since that's what we're going to be covering today. The first thing you'd probably want to do, if you want to start a Minecraft server, is find a place probably in your folders or on your desktop. You got to right click, you got to create new, and you got to click folder. Okay, we're going to rename this folder whatever, testing server 1.3.2, okay, because our Minecraft version is 1.3.2. Yeah, click that, and now you have an empty folder. This is where your folder will be run. It's where all your files will be. It's where it's going to be running from, depending if you're hosting it on your desktop or on a separate server. Obviously this place will change, but you need a place to put all your files. As you can see right now, I have a few servers that I run. This is the current version of Firetop Games, the server that I run. It's the newest version of the files and configuration I have. But we're going to be talking about a different server. So we're going to create a new server here, and I'll show you how to do that. So after you've created your new folder, you're going to want to go online, and I'm going to open a new tab here, and we're going to go search dl.bukkit.org. Okay, you see that? You click enter. Then you're going to click from here, recommended build. You see the recommended version right now is 1.3.1 R2. We'll talk about that in a second, but we're going to download that just for now. So that should start downloading. We're going to keep it for now. Or, if you're more like me, and we're going to just check this out for now. This is a recommended build, and as the name says, it's the build that Bukkit recommends for you. Although it is 1.3.1, and you can host a 1.3.1 server and have 1.3 clients, or 1.3.2 clients connect. But if you really want like the newest fixes and the newest version of CraftBukkit, you can click this. Right underneath recommended build, it says alternate versions. So you're going to click that. And over here is all their versions of CraftBukkit that they've ever made. As you can see, they got recommended build, which is the one we just downloaded, their newest beta build, and their newest developer build. This is their newest developer build. It's 2,361. I usually always stay with the newest developer builds. Even though they're considered less stable, they usually have fixes on each one. So that's why I would download the newest one, and I'll download that right now also. They're about the same size, 11.2 and 11.2. There's no real difference. It will take a lot of changes or fixes or patches, or even sometimes it takes up to a new Minecraft version for there to be a difference in the size. So don't worry about that. So now that you have your CraftBukkit builds, you're going to open your directory here that you've created, your folder, and you're going to grab whatever one you want. I'm going to stick with 1.3.2. This is the one I'm using right now on Firetop Games, and it's running fine for me, so I'm going to use that. You're going to rename this to CraftBukkit, okay? CraftBukkit.jar. If you don't see the .jar, I recommend you allow it. So what you're going to do is going to go up here to Organize on Windows 7. You're going to do Folder and Search Options. You're going to go under View up here, and then where it says hide extensions for known file types, that's going to be checked if you don't see .jar. So you're going to want to uncheck that and hit apply, okay, and then you shall see the .jar. So once that you see that, you're going to rename it to CraftBukkit.jar. and now you need to create your start file. You can double click this, but you won't have a console access. You won't have console at all, actually, so it's not recommended. So we're going to close that, and then what we're going to do is go to Google here. We're going to make this full screen, and you're going to search CraftBukkit, and as you can see, the first options that come up is the bucket forms. You got CraftBukkit, you got CraftBukkit plugin list, Disguisecraft, recommended build, which is what we just downloaded, the forums, and setting up a Minecraft server. Find setting up a Minecraft server, that's what you'll want to click. And as you can see, they have options for all OSs, Windows, Linux, Mac. We're going to be working on Windows right now, so we're going to click that. It's different depending on what operating system you're using. So download the instructions here. I'll read them out. Download the latest CraftBukkit. We've already done that. Put it in a directory. We've already done that. Put it in our folder. Open Notepad and type this. So I'm gonna link to you guys the one I use for Firetop, but for anyone else that that's maybe running this on a laptop or something that doesn't have that much power onto it, I recommend using what CraftBukkit uses right here, their recommended start file. So we're going to copy this, and we're going to do exactly what they tell us to. We're going to paste this in Notepad. So I have two versions of Notepad. I have Notepad++, and we'll talk about the benefits of that in a second. But for now, we'll just stick to the normal Notepad. We're going to paste that in. We're going to save the file. So save as. And then we're going to save it to our desktop, or actually we'll save it right in our testing folder. Testing server. There you go. What you're going to do is save as type. We're going to save it all files. We don't want it to be a .text file. We want it to be the file we say we want it to be. So we're going to rename. We're going to call it Start.bat, and don't forget the .bat. After you click all files and call it Start.bat, you're going to save. You can now close this, and we'll minimize that for now, and there is your start file. Now there's a few different types of start files, and we'll kind of talk about them in a second. My FiretopGames has a different type of start file. I'll compare them. Open with Notepad and open with Notepad. So as you can see, this is the one we set up, recommended by CraftBukkit, and this is mine, and it's much longer and has a lot more to it. And the reason I have all this is because my desktop is pretty powerful. I built it myself. It's got lots more power than a normal server would have. So this allows for things like multi-threading and more RAM usage and better optimization. As for this, just starts it. That's all it does. So but we're going to stick with the normal bat file for now that CraftBukkit uses. So then what you're going to do is make sure you right click and start as administrator, or I think you can go in compatibility. No, actually you can't. So first time we're going to at least run as administrator, and we're going to let it create the worlds and the files. So as you can see, it's creating everything that we need. We're going to let that do its thing. The only time you'll see this happening when it's creating spawn regions is when it's creating the world folders in the first place. After that, if we stop the server and then saving chunks and then restart it, you'll see that it won't. There you go, that's it. It didn't do it again. It just was creating the world. So now that that's done, we'll talk a bit about the start file. To find out how much memory you can allocate to your server, how much RAM you can allocate to it, we're going to come over here to start. We're going to come over here to right click on control panel, or no, sorry, right click on computer, and then select properties. Okay, now that you selected properties, you should get this window here, and under installed memory or RAM, it will tell you how much memory you have on your computer. So I have a 10 gigabytes of RAM installed, and 9.25 is usable by the, anything else like programs and such. So keep this number in mind. So whatever yours is, no matter if it's 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, keep that in mind. Mine is 10 gigabytes. So we're going to close this. Now when we come over here and we right click and we start the file or edit the file, there's two ways of doing this, of course. We can use Notepad++, which is what I use, or you can come over to Start, you can type Notepad, and just drag and drop the bat file we created into Notepad. We're going to stick with Notepad++ for now, because it just has better layouting. So here you see where it says X, -XMX and -XMS. So this is your minimum, and this is your maximum amount of memory that the server can use. So right now the minimum is set to 1 gigabyte. You're going to at least have 1 gigabyte as your minimum. You can't put that any lower. Now for maximum, I have 10 gigabytes on my computer. I'm going to leave about 2 gigabytes for the actual computer itself. So I'm going to say, 10 minus 2, or 10 minus, removing 10 minus, why am I stuttering here? 10 minus 8 is left, and there's 2 left, right? So we want to leave 2 for the OS, 10 minus 8, there's 2. So we know that we want to use 8 gigabytes for the server if we want to leave 2 for the computer itself. So I changed 1 gigabyte, so 1024 megabytes, to 8G. Now, depending on the setup you have on your computer with Java, it may not accept 8G, but for now we're going to say it does. If it doesn't, I'll go through the other options. So now you set 8G, and that stands for 8 gigabytes. You start the server, and once it says done, you're done. You see up here it says 8G and 24 megabytes, which is 1 gigabyte. Now let's say your server didn't start with 8G and it just crashed. It just showed the window for a split second and then stopped. You're going to stop the server, and you never stop it clicking the X, because that will corrupt something. Most likely you actually have to type stop, you hit enter, you let it finish, and you close it. So let's say that didn't work for you. You can edit it again by keeping the M, but you have to put the equivalent of 8 gigabytes in megabytes. So to find that out, you can go to Google. We're going to go to Google. We're going to do 8 GB to MB, and that basically means 8 gigabytes to megabytes, and there is the equivalent, 8 gigabytes to megabits, bytes, sorry. So there you go. That's how many, that's for the same amount of gigs to your server, just set up in a different version in Java. You will still, it should work for you. So if we start it, it should still run. It should still have 8 gigabytes dedicated to the server, but it's just going to be run a different way. So now that that's done, we're going to stop this again. We're going to look into the other configuration files that come in the world. So it creates a folder here with a plugins directory, which is empty, a world directory, which will have your world files, your world nether, your world end, your band IP and band players. These should all be empty by default. There you go. So there is no band players in here. Your bukkit.yml, your craft bucket that you renamed, your help.yml, your ops file, your permissions file, which all of this should really be empty from the start. You see permissions is empty. And server log, we'll delete that. Whitelist.txt. So this is what you're left with. So the two things we'll look into editing right now is, I'm going to delete these worlds, by the way, to start off. we're going to look into editing the server.properties file. Now you'll see that it's a .properties file. If you haven't done the organization layout thing that I showed you before, and this is checked, it will just say server. Although, there you go. So it will say normally server, although for some reason it's still saying .properties for me. So we're going to bring this back. You may not be able to open this. If you just double click, it will give you this. You know, what program shall you use? So what I'll show you is how to open this. There's two ways, of course. Once again, you can use a normal notepad, and you would take this and you would drag it in, and you're left with this. Or you can open it with Notepad++ if you have it installed, and you are left with this. Up to you which one you want to use. Notepad++ is a program that understands programming languages. So under languages, you can see that it understands C, C#, C++. It understands, you know, HTML. For websites, it understands programming languages, which is why it will always give you the proper formatting. As for this, I can show you in a second that, well, it doesn't. If you try and open a YML file, for example, in Notepad++, you're left with this. Notepad++, if you open it with Notepad++, it understands the layout and it gives you this. It's way easier to work with this than it is with this. Okay? So that's why I'm going to be sticking with Notepad++ for now. So we're going to open server.properties with Notepad. We're going to allow never. So what this does is it allow the never to be created. We're going to say, actually we're going to say true. The world name. So what will the worlds be called? It's going to be called world. Pretty simple. Enable query. We're going to say yes. What that means is if you have a 100 player max players, if you have a 100 player server, if 100 players are on it, and someone else tries to join, if 101 players try and join, will the 101th player be kicked out? Or will it just allow him to wait for someone to leave? And that's what query does. True means he would wait. False would mean he would not be allowed to join. So allow flight, we're going to set that to true. We love flying. Server port, we're going to keep this to default 25565, unless you're running more than one server at once, in which case you would want to change it to 25564 or 25566. It really depends. Usually you keep it to default, just because that's the default port for all Minecraft servers, unless, like I said, you're running more than one, and then you have to specify the port. Level type, you keep this to default, always to default. Enable Archon, set that to false. The level seed, so like when you create a single player world, it will have a seed. What do you want that seed to be? So we're going to say FiretopGames is awesome is our seed. Server IP, you always keep this blank, absolutely always. Even if you're running a cracked server, you always leave this blank. Please understand that, okay? You never put an IP address in here. Max build height, and we'll explain why in a second. Max build height is obviously the maximum height that a person can build from bedrock. Spawn NPCs true. So do you want NPC villages to actually spawn NPCs? So true means obviously allow, and false means not allow. Whitelist, you want to keep this to false unless you want to specify who's allowed on your server, in which case you would need to add their names into the whitelist folder. So close all but this. So anywho, we're going to keep whitelisting to false. Spawn animals, do you want animals to spawn on your server? Set that to true. Snooper enabled, please everyone, this is, people don't understand what this is. I'm going to set this to false. Basically what snooper means is, do you want Mojang to be allowed to snoop in your server, to be allowed to check your files, to check your settings, to check who's on your server, to snoop, be like a spy on your server? Are they allowed to get that information from your server? I like that server staying private locally. I should be the only one that's allowed to know how I set up my server, so I set that to false. Hardcore, it's set to false. We're going to keep that to false. What that basically means is like the hardcore on single player. If you die, you are banned from the server. You are no longer allowed to join the server. Even if you try and unban the player that died in your hardcore server, it will not allow you. There's better plugins that handle hardcore better, so we're going to set that to false. Texture pack, we'll get into that in a second. Online mode true, we're going to set this to false. And basically, this has nothing to do with you know, people connecting from outside of your computer, or you know, from locally. That has nothing to do with anything like that. All it means is, do you want cracked clients to be able to connect? True means that cracked clients will be unable to connect. False means that both cracked and not cracked clients, like bot clients, will be able to connect. If you want both of them to be able to connect, you set that to false. If you want only premium users to be able to connect, you set that to true. We want everyone to connect, so we're going to set that to false. PvP will set that to true, because we love people PvPing each other. Person versus player, or person versus person. Difficulty, we're going to set that to 2. 1 means peaceful, I believe, so 2 would mean easy. Game mode, actually we'll set that to 3 for normal. Game mode, we'll set this to 1. No, actually we'll set that to 0. 0 means survival, 1 means creative. Max players, obviously that's the maximum amount of players on your server. And to find out how many players you can support, I recommend you go to this website. Go to Google and then go, can I host a Minecraft server? Right there. That's the website. Can I host a MinecraftServer.com? Whoops, don't want to share that. Okay, so click that. Now, maximum connection. If you're not hosting from your house, this doesn't matter. You could put in whatever. It doesn't matter. If you are hosting from your house, you'll want to do a speed test. So go to speedtest.net, do a speed test, find out what your maximum upload and download speeds are, okay? And then make sure you put those in your connection speed. For me, I am hosting from home, but I already know how fast my uploads and download speeds are. So I'm going to put 1660. Or if you're hosting externally from somewhere else, if you're buying a host, they will usually have like 1,000 and 1,000, so it really doesn't matter. You could put whatever you want in here. How much RAM does your computer have? So remember, we told you to remember that number. Yeah, remembered it. I had 10 gigabytes, but I only set 8 gigabytes to the server. So we're going to put the number 8 gigabytes in megabytes. So it's always in megabytes. If you put 8, it won't work. You have to put it in megabytes. So tell me what I can run. I can run 96 players. Okay, I rounded mine to 100. Okay, so basically it means after 96 I would start seeing performance issues. Well, whatever. At 100 we're fine. Spawn monsters. So do you want creepers and skeletons and zombies to spawn? So we want that true. View distance is how many chunks. 16 by 16 chunks do you want to spawn around your player? So we're going to keep that at, we'll put that to 10, just for better performance. Generate structures. So up here, do you want to spawn NPCs and NPC villages? This is, do you want to spawn NPC villages at all? So we're going to set that to true. And then this is the name of the Minecraft server. So right now we'll keep it a Minecraft server. I'm going to save that, close it. So now when we run our server, because we deleted the world files and we had set up a new seed, it will regenerate these. And then I'm going to connect with my official Minecraft client that I have bought. And we're going to go remember password, login, and then multiplayer. And you see there it is, localhost. This is the IP you want to connect to is a localhost. You can add a server or direct connect, and you would make sure you type in localhost as the IP. You click join. There you go. And now I'm inside my new Minecraft server. And I have many wolves right now. So right now I'm running on my new Minecraft server. It's running nicely, no problems. If you can see over here, it says Joel Samson with this IP address, which is the local host set in numbers. This is the local host logged in with entity ID blah at this location. So world and then this, XYZ blah blah blah. So it's just confirming that I have in fact logged in. Now if I want to be up, so if I do /stop or /pl, you'll see that right now I have 0 plugins, and sorry, but you don't have permission to perform this. If you want permission, you want to go to console here, and you'll want to type opt Joel Samson. Opt Joel Samson, and in here you should see console opt Joel Samson. So now if I do /stop, I now have permission, and that will stop the server. And press any key to continue, and you're done. So as you can see, those are the real basics of hosting a Minecraft server. We're going to change the name of our Minecraft server to testing server 1.3.2, and then we're going to save that. Yes. Start Minecraft server. So now when we connect, it should have the new name that we entered, which was testing server 1.3.2. Testing server 1.3.2, and there you go. So close, stop, stop. Now open CraftBukkit++ or CraftBukkit.yml. You want to keep all of these to default usually, but I'll explain what these do. Allow end. Do you want your server to have an end? Yes. Warn on overload, we're going to set that to false, because sometimes depending on plugins it can be very annoying. Spawn radius, this is not the radius in which you will spawn, it is the radius in blocks around the spawning area that is protected. So 16 by 16 blocks, 16 up, 16 down, 16 side to side. It's a full 16 cube in blocks around that area that will be protected. Permissions file is permissions.yml. You want to keep that the same. Update folder, we're going to keep that to update. Ping packet limit, so how many packets can one user send? We're going to say 200 just to make sure it works. Use exact login location, always set this to true. What basically that allows is, do you want, even if they spawn in a very tight area or over a void or something, do you want them to spawn there? Because if you don't set that to true, and the server detects you're spawning in some other location that it doesn't like, it will make them spawn anywhere. It will put them anywhere around the world, and you just don't want that. Plugin profiling, keep this to false. Connection throttle, that's how many connections you want your server to have. We'll stop it at 500. Query plugin, set this to false. Basically that means, do you want the plugins to be queried if there's an issue, but we don't. Spawn monsters, that's a lot of monsters, and we'll set this to 20. And that's not a lot of animals, so we'll set that to 23 to keep it similar. That water animals is like squid, and no one really cares about squid, so we'll set that to 2. This is not like 2 in the whole world, 70, 25 in the whole world. That's per chunk. Okay, so in one chunk, 16 by 16 blocks, how many do you want? What do you want the limit to be? So that's our limit. Spawn animal spawns, we're gonna set that to 200. And I'm just guessing things here. It depends on your server performance, how many plugins, how much RAM you have. You have to play with those to find out what's best for your server. Auto updater, do you want to update Minecraft automatically? Your Minecraft server automatically, you want to set that to false. If you do want to set it to true, make sure it says preferred channel RB, okay, recommended build. If you set this to true. We always set this to false because I want to be in charge of what version of Minecraft, or CraftBukkit I'm running. And database, we don't care about that because the log file is usually enough for everyone. In the log file, when you open it, you'll see that it's exactly what it just logs everything my server did. Not important right now though. And there you go. So that's basically starting a Minecraft server from scratch. Next, in the next video, we'll probably talk about where to get your plugins, how to install them, and how to configure them. And that's it. So talk to you later.